welcome to Chop Shop Motors. I thought it was probably time to maybe give you a little peek at some of the other pieces that I'm always collecting and looking for and stumbling across, and that is vintage wheels for old hot rods. So most of my stuff has an older kind of vibe to it, and there are lots of really cool wheels out there that are big hoops, 20s and even bigger, and 18s and 20s and 17s, and all these pretty large diameter wheels, and they're all cool. And if they that's what really lights your fire, then that's awesome. For me, I tend to probably gravitate towards the older stuff. It kind of is what I want to put on my cars. It's what I look for at the swap meets, and you can tell from most of my old stuff around here that most of the cars have a vintage wheel on them of some kind. So I thought, let's share a little bit of what I'm looking for. Might interest a couple of you out there. I'll show you some of the wheels that I have on a couple of the cars and what's interesting about them, and I'll show you some of the stuff I'm looking for or that I pay attention to and what are the differences. If you're looking for old wheels at swap meets and things like that, it can be a little bit daunting. I'll share what I look for, I'll share what I shy away from, and let's take a look at some wheels. So probably the first wheel when you think about an old Ford and kind of a traditional hot rod, you really think about a steel wheel. So a Ford steel wheel like this is 5 on 5.5, so it fits Fords up to pre-war for the most part. Have this bolt pattern. Post-war, 46, 47, 48 has this bolt pattern. In 49, the passenger cars went to a smaller bolt pattern right here, but the trucks stayed 5 on 5.5. So we're gonna stay pretty much focused on the 5 on 5.5 because that's a lot of what I have has that bolt pattern. It's also just a little bit harder to find. So this is a steel wheel, probably about a 46, 47. It's 5 on 5.5. It's 4.5 inches wide right here. So it is a really common wheel of this style. So this was pretty desirable. It has inside nubs so that the hubcap pops in on the inside. I'll show you one mounted. This is a super traditional wheel, and lots of hot rodders in the day use this to replace wire wheels, even because the bolt pattern was the same, but they got away from the wire wheels. In 36, 37, 38, and 39, they went to a really big bolt pattern called a wide 5. A cool pattern, a little bit different, but then they came back to this one. So I won't show you any of the wide 5. They're exactly like I described, a big bolt pattern, take a different brake drum, kind of an animal all their own. So the cool thing about this wheel is it comes in a couple different variations. So this is a 16. It is 4.5 inches wide. It also comes 4 inches wide if it was like on a 39 or 40 Ford. And then it comes 3.5 inches wide if it was on a V8 60 car. Those are pretty hard to come by, but for a roadster running big and littles, it's a really cool wheel. So I haven't come across any of those wheels. I don't need any bad enough to want to pay the price for them, but I have some of the 4 inchers. Obviously I have some 4.5 inchers, and they also make one that is 5 inches. All 16s, these are all 16s. So 5-inch is a really good wheel to use on the back of, like this 32 Ford that's over here that I can show you, a high boy, something of that nature. That 5-inch lets the tire pooch out a little bit, even though it's a skinny tire. Really desirable, pretty hard to come by, and so when you do, be prepared to pay a little bit more. So I don't know that there's a ton more to tell you about this wheel. It's the mainstay of traditional hot rods. It's a cool wheel. They're around. You can find them. You got to pay up a little bit for them as they're getting a little bit spendier. If you buy a set and you paid full price for them and you're banking on them to be perfect, put them on something to make sure they're true before you spend the money, because a lot of them are bent. And that's the story on these. Okay, steel wheel out of the way. Now, let's talk about another wheel that I have a lot of passion for, and that is a 5-spoke. So, a 5-spoke is typically a 15-inch versus a 16-inch. Although I'm going to show you at the end of this video another 16-inch Halibrand that is super desirable. But for now, we'll take a look at some 5-spokes. So let me get a couple set up for you. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple wheels here, kind of two at a time. These are both vintage 5-spokes. They do sell a wheel. They do sell a 5-spoke that is new. American makes it for a fork truck or for a 5-on-5.5. These happen to be originals, and so let's talk a little bit about them. So this wheel on my right is a pretty cool wheel, but it's a pretty uncommon wheel to come across. This is a Mickey Thompson. Mickey Thompson makes lots of performance tires for off-road. They made performance tires for drag racing. They made, I think they made slicks. They made all kinds of stuff. And they made lots of other stuff too, valve covers and things like that. But they didn't make a ton of wheels, at least not enough that they're everywhere today. So this is a set of Mickey Thompsons that I came across, and I like them just because they're the real deal from back in the 60s. They have a peaked spoke, so pretty common for this kind of wheel is to have a peak spoke, and they have a lip right here on the outside here, so it's not flat all the way. It's flat, then has a lip. These two wheels are decent. I haven't had anything done to them. It's exactly how I got them. I have a pair of them, and the center caps are really cool. The early center caps for the Mickey Thompson wheels are really cool. So I'd love to find a set of center caps to put on all 4 wheels, even though 2 of them won't be Mickey Thompson, just because they're so cool looking. The reason I got these was I was wanting to find a set of wheels for an F100 I was building. So these are going to be perfect. They're 6 inches wide. They're not super wide. They're offset center, so they're neutral, and they're exactly what I was looking for. Then came the next step of what do I find to put with them. So the next thing I found was this set you're looking at right here. A really nice set that I bought off an auction site. They've had some attention given to them to clean them up and make them more presentable. They also have a peaked spoke. These don't have any names stamped in them. The person I bought them from and a couple other people have kind of agreed that they think they're appliance. So until I can find out some information that proves that wrong, I'm going to say they're appliance. They look really similar to the Mickey Thompson wheel. I figured they would make a nice set. I have both of them polished on the outside so they match. Paint the spokes the same. They aren't identical. The inside area where the hub is a little bit different. This one is a little beefier on the Mickey Thompson. If you look at the back, the spoke configuration is a little bit different. This has a notch in it for probably a disc brake clearance. This one clears it just because of the way it's made. They probably were designed that way, but you know, by the time they get to now, who knows? There isn't a lot of real literature on them. So that was going to be the set for this pickup truck. So a really nice set. Then I decided this is going to be a truck that has the spare tire mounted up over the corner of the fender. So I'm like, well, I got to find one more, which is not impossible to find a single. There's all kinds of 5-spokes out there that don't have a partner. So I didn't really worry too much that that was going to be a problem. And so I started kind of keeping my eye open for them. I'll show you what I came across as a candidate for a spare. The candidate for the spare ended up being this set of wheels. So I have two of these. This is a peaked spoke, uses the same 5-spoke American center cap. It has these two wheels that I got were really in rough shape. I mean, just they were a step away from the scrapyard only because they just look so horrible. But that's kind of how most of these wheels are when you find them. So I gave them a light cleanup just to see if they look halfway decent, and they do. The interesting thing about these wheels is they are an aluminum center on a steel band. So when you look at the back side, it's actually steel with this piece welded in, this alloy piece welded inside here. And you might think, oh my God, a 2-piece wheel, I would never think about ever doing that. Well, all the old Cragars are like that. Lots of wheels are like that. I've seen these on cars that have had pretty unbelievable crashes, and that piece doesn't ever separate from the band. So from a safety perspective, nothing to worry about on these as far as I'm concerned. I put my family in with a set of these on it. But that was the wheel. I was going to use one of those pair for the spare. So there you go. There you have kind of what that looks like. That leaves me one oddball. But probably what will happen is I'll find another single before I'm all done. So that's that one. Then what I came across not too long ago was a set of these. So these were a set of wheels that all of these are the same size. They're all 15/6. So this was a set of wheels that had been advertised forever, and they were advertised dimensionally incorrectly. So I looked at them and I said, no, that isn't a bolt pattern that I can use. And then about 1.5 years later, I stumbled across the ad again, and I said, I wonder if that really isn't right. So I followed up, I went and looked at the wheels, and lo and behold, it was 5 on 5.5, and it's perfect. These are equally as crusty and need a lot of love, but they're a pretty cool wheel. These are an ET. ET wheels, actually a really common, popular wheel. They produced a lot of them. Shouldn't be impossible to find another pair to put with these and have a set, especially if I could find a set of maybe 5s, 5 inches wide, and they would be an alternative for early hot rod. Or if I found another set that was 7 inches wide, then they'd be a good candidate for an F100. Anyway, they're kind of a neat wheel. They have a different configuration to the spoke though. So this has a completely rounded spoke. This spoke is very similar to an Anson. So an Anson uses a rounded spoke. If I found another set of these that were Ansons, they could go on the front or the rear and complement these, and quite honestly, no one would ever know that they weren't the same wheel. So that is what the ETs look like. The interesting thing is ETs have it stamped huge letters right here in the front. So pretty quickly you can tell that this is an ET wheel because it's stamped right there. Most of the other ones don't stamp it on the outside. Lots of wheels stamp it on the inside. These ETs are made by the Wheel Center company, and they're out of Walnut Creek, California, which is kind of cool. So definitely a neat wheel. I'll show you what an Anson looks like in a little more cleaned up version. So let me show you that. So on the back of the 64 F100, I have another Anson wheel, or an Anson wheel, to show you for comparison to that ET. It is a round spoke and has very much the same profile as that wheel I just showed you. This is a small bolt pattern forward, but it has the same look and feel. Let me show you what it looks like on the spare. Just because the spare is a little more light on it, might be just a touch easier to get it focused on. So that's what the wheel looks like. Super cool wheel. I love these Ansons. These particular ones are 8.5s in the rear on this truck, 6s on the front, and then a spare that has had a rough life but works perfect for the spare. So that's what another set of unbelievably cool vintage wheels look like. Let me show you what some contemporary no, I'm going to show you one other set of old style wheels, and then I'll show you some contemporary ones. So one more vintage wheel is this Cragar. This Cragar is a aluminum wheel. It is an aluminum center with an aluminum outer hoop, aluminum outer edge, but it is on a steel hoop. This is a 14-inch. This is called a GT, and I bought these, and they were, you know, pretty forlorn looking. I spent a bunch of time getting them cleaned up to this state. They're not perfect. I could take them another step. Sorry, I'm getting a little more focused here. I could take them another step and clean them up a little bit more, but for right now, as this car is moving slowly in the list of projects, they're fine. These wheels came with a black center, typically, or often, and a satin finish outer, and so that's pretty much what we'll do here. The GT caps are the same dimensions as the typical Cragar SS cap, just the letters are different on the inside. See if it'll focus on here, and but I mean, for the most part, same center cap. They will interchange. The other thing that's a little different about this wheel is the spoke profile is flat on the top, and has a little bit of crown to it, but not very much. Flat on top versus either rounded or peaked. It isn't as flat as the wheel that would have been on like there was a Shelby aftermarket or performance add-on wheel that was available that used a completely flat spoke. Not quite like that, but still a pretty wheel. I have 4 of them on this little car. Not terribly hard to get, not super desirable. 14-inch wheels are, you know, they're kind of a pain because they don't make as many tires for them. The 15s are usually look a little bit better on these cars, or can look better just because they fill up the wheel well a little more. This is a pretty small car, so it works just fine on it. So that is the Cragar. All right, now let me show you a later model wheel that is still a 5-spoke, but is, I mean, I've had them for probably 10 or so years, if not more, but they're not vintage. They may be getting vintage now, but that's just because I've owned them for a while. But I bought them new from Halibrand, and they're the ones on the Plymouth. So let me pull the cover back. So this is a 5-spoke Halibrand. A contemporary version, it has a screw-in aluminum center cap, no screws around the perimeter of it. It has somewhat of a D-spoke look to it. If you think of an American torque thrust, that's kind of the spoke profile. It came polished, super cool wheel. I have a set on this, and then there is a set on Shelby's F100. I really like them. They look sharp when they're cleaned up. They're not very common. They're hard to get, if you can even get them anymore. Halibrand's gotten a little finicky around getting stuff, so they could very well be out of production by now. But kind of a cool wheel. I love them. I think they make the car look kind of timeless, and just another option to the, you know, vast array of wheels that are out there. All right, let me show you the last one. All right, the last wheel is a Halibrand. So this is a kidney bean Halibrand. Probably, my guess is sometime in the 50s. There's some Halibrand people out there that would probably be able to date code that thing almost exactly. I'm not that good, but I do know I love the look of these kidney bean Halibrands. This is one of 4 that are going on the 32 pickup that we'll be doing a bunch of video on to show the progress on it. These are magnesium. So they're a 15-inch wheel, not a 16. These are a 15-inch wheel, but they are a magnesium wheel. So what that means is that they have a little different luster to them. They don't quite look like a polished aluminum wheel. They look more like a nickel-coated, nickel-plated item. They look like jewelry when they're polished up on a car. I don't think there's anything cooler. Lots of guys, well, a couple of the options are, I won't say lots of guys, they are a pain in the behind to take care of. So keeping them polished and keeping them out of the air is 2 things you have to do. These, I pulled them, I mean, I haven't had them on a car. They haven't been on a car in a long time. So I pulled them down and I gave this one 15 minutes worth of love to get it to this stage. This is about what it would look like when it's time to polish it, but I mean, it gives you at least an idea. I think these are just, this is one of the coolest wheels there is. Probably the coolest thing about it is they were really made for racing. So they were made for performance vehicles. They were made to be on drag cars. They were made to be on land speed cars. They were made to be on sprint cars and midgets and all these different kinds of super modifieds and all these kinds of cars that were looking for a racing wheel. These wheels were what were on it. So this isn't a poser. These are the real deal, and that part's pretty cool. They're super light because they're magnesium, and unsprung weight was really important in a race car, so that was why they made them out of this. If you look at the back side, you may realize that there are some Indy cars and different race cars that actually use this side out, and that was because the center of the wheel is actually flat, so you could bolt them on either way you wanted to adjust the offset. So in the race car world, you would either run a wheel with a different offset, put a wheel spacer on it, or you could flip the wheel around. So that's kind of the story behind that. These wheels came lots of different versions, lots of different ways. They came as knockoffs. They came as 6-bolt knockoffs, which were pinned, and there was a hat that went on there and a big spinner that held the wheel on. They came drilled 5 on 5.5 or some other bolt pattern that you wanted, 5 on 5 if you maybe were running a big Pontiac rear end or something like that. Maybe that would be your choice. But nowadays you see them with just about every kind of configuration you could imagine. And lots of times you'll see them where they filled the holes and re-drilled them, and they've done some work to them. I've seen them where big chunks were broken out and they welded them back together and brought them back to life. All those things are possible. How damaged the wheel is that you want to bring back to life is kind of a choice of yours, and you know, what's the safety of it. There are lots of ways to check to see if the integrity is there, but this isn't an OSHA commercial. This is a cool old hot rod commercial, so I just dig the crap out of them. These are going on that 32 pickup. I don't think that anything can really compare. The little kidney bean windows are just killer. There are a couple of companies that replicate this wheel. So if you love this wheel and you don't want to spend the money that these particular wheels cost, and I only have one set, so there's been a lot of times in my life where I wish I had them and I just couldn't afford them. I got lucky and traded into a set. But there are other wheels out there that give you that same look for maybe not quite as much money. And then there are lots of other wheels like these 5 spokes that you see behind that you can get for a couple $100 a pair if you just hunt and are patient enough. So that is kind of the wheel story around what are some of the wheels that I dig, what do I have on some of the cars, what are the stories behind some of them. I've been saving old wheels for 30 years. So the set of Ansons that I have on the 64 truck, I got that set out of my wrecking yard probably, I'm sorry, I'm doing math in my head, probably 1985. So they sat in the rafters for a long time until this truck came along and they were the perfect fit for it. So don't be surprised when, don't be surprised when you cruising through a swap meet and you see some old wheels and they look like they will be just what you need. They've been waiting for you. So check them out, bring a tape measure, bring a gauge so you can check what the bolt pattern is or know how to measure it. Obviously not everybody knows how to measure them, so don't trust anybody, because once you buy them in a swap meet, they're yours. That's my dive into old wheels. I hope that was interesting. Like, share, subscribe if this kind of stuff is something that is worth seeing more of. We're gonna do some other ones. We've got a video coming up that I'll probably do on some vintage headlights. I might do another one on some Stuart Warner gauges. I had done some and we lost some video, so we'll replace some of those and get some new content up to kind of show that stuff. But I'm Clay for Chop Shop Motors, and we'll see you on the next project.